Greetings. We welcome you to Conversations and Coffee today on this 15th day of April. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program, and we're here virtually and by virtue of our creative technician, Lindsay Lasanti, who brings us the Zoom connection. Lindsay recently graduated from Otterbein University. And Katie Fisher is our pro in getting the word out for our Cultural Arts Center, located in downtown Columbus. Katie's a graduate of Columbus College of Art and Design. She is with Tom Bell in creating our main gallery, the exhibit Ekphrastic Fantastic, with 73 artists who together give us 146 works of art created from photographs that provided and distributed to the artists. Great write-up in the Columbus Dispatch by Nancy Gilson. Amazing show. Ekphrastic is a Greek word that means the verbal response to a work of art. Fantastic are the works in the exhibit. And we're delighted to have with us today Ashley Pierce, our artist, who has a beautiful, striking work in the show. And she's going to tell us about it as she responds to the photograph that she was given. Ashley, you describe yourself as a self-taught artist navigating life by creating art based on personal experience, emotions, characters around you. You've been creating art since you were a child. How beautiful. And you just returned from your first artist in residence experience at Waubonsee State Park in Iowa. This last weekend, you were one of 15 selected artists for a plein air art event at the Indianapolis Zoo. And you'll also be creating work as a chalk artist at the Summer Jam West Festival this year in Westgate Park. This is wonderful. Ashley shares that as her experiences grow, her work evolves and she continuously pushes herself, always excited for new adventures. Ashley's primarily a mixed media and muralist artist. She creates characters and scenes from what she describes as the invisible world hidden just beneath the thin film of our reality. It struck me as the Irish thin places. Ashley's unmistakable style is most often seen on wood panel. She'll tell us about this, using watercolor and allowing the grain to come through, and carves into the wood, grills and grinds it. And I saw that effect when I went to the Cultural Arts Center to view your fantastic work in the exhibit. From 2007 until 2020, you filled various roles, including studio director, marketing director, and art facilitator in a nonprofit organization in Central Ohio, serving adults with physical and developmental disabilities. The experience produced a unique perspective on how art benefits and connects people, and you're passionate about sharing that as a full-time artist. Your work has been shown in exhibitions nationally, including Chicago and New York. You're a featured artist in the show New Horizons Taught Art of the 20th Century at the Hickory Museum of Art in North Carolina. Ashley's also served as a juror for several art shows and volunteers with nonprofit art galleries and organizations. Ashley's passionate about mentoring other artists and always enjoys sharing her work and experience with others. And we are just delighted you're sharing your work and your experience with us. So Take it away, Ashley. So happy to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk about the work and also just just be a part of the program that you guys do. I think it's awesome, and I'm always so excited about it. So thanks for having me.
Oh, delighted. Oh, there's that work I love.
That is it. So this is the piece that I currently have in the show that is currently up. So this piece was for those that might not know, we were given a piece, either a photograph or a work of art or something from the Cultural Arts Center, and then we were asked to create an inspiration piece based off of that work. So this piece was mine. On the far right, you can see the piece that has the easels with the light shining through. And that was the piece that the photograph that I was given to do a piece that responded to that. So I created the piece on the far left. And then in the center, you can kind of see my thought process as to kind of how I came up with why I did that piece. So I started by really examining the photograph and picking out the things that I really liked about it. So and just kind of looking at the photograph and picking it apart in general. What's in it, what's interesting about it, what makes it stand out. So the things that I got from that was, the fact that there's two easels and there might be a couple more, but there's two main easels, and the easels kind of, to me, represent like waiting, creativity that's about to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So kind of like a holding place. And then the light that shined through in the windows was really fantastic. So I looked at a picture of the front of the Cultural Arts Center and picked out those two windows, and then wanted to create those shapes, and then wanted to create beings that kind of represented the easels. They were, they have their eyes closed because they're not activated yet. And then also play with the colors as far as having them kind of all one color, but then having touches of other color, kind of how the easels have paint on them. So that was my piece that is in the show currently.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so this is a piece from 2014. This is called Moving Forward Slowly. And this was a piece that I created at home when I was kind of going through some changes in my life. It was a big transition period for me. And so this was kind of my interpretation of how I was moving forward, but it also felt very slow. And it's always hard to tell in photographs, but the arrows in the background and the notches are all dremeled out. So they're all carved. So that's always kind of hard to tell in photographs. It's usually easier to tell in person. So that was a piece that I did kind of about this big transition that was taking place in my life.
And the time that it would take to drill those little arrows, huh?
It does take quite a bit of time. Probably not as much time as it took to make all the tiny little scales on the turtle. But yeah, and it's definitely a challenge using a Dremel, because you can there's different types of Dremels, and I've gone through various Dremels throughout my career as an artist. So finding one that like really works for you is also kind of a challenge too.
What's a Dremel?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Inga, go ahead, because I bet we're going to say the same thing.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see me, but this is a Dremel tool. So I've got it hooked up to an IV pole because it works better if you use it where it's like a little bit above you. So it's got like a motor on it. This is actually a pretty fancy Dremel, but this is the motor, and then this is the Dremel tool that has a tip on it that's a diamond tip. And these are interchangeable. You can use different tips. So I use this then to carve into the wood.
Amazing. Amazing.
Okay, so this is a show card from 2014, and it is a show card from Lindsay Gallery, which is the gallery that I'm represented by. It's here in Columbus, and Duff Lindsay specializes in outsider art. He has been a huge influence on my career as an artist and has really pushed me. So this was my first show. I had not really thought about showing my work prior to that. I was working with adults with disabilities, and my focus was really on, making my work on the side at home. But I hadn't really ever thought about showing it until Duff approached me and asked me if I wanted to have a show with him. And I would have been crazy to say no. So it was something that I was really excited about, but it was also something that was extremely nerve-wracking. I'm not one that particularly likes the spotlight. And so this was a big challenge for me to kind of put myself out there and to put my work out there. And with my work being so personal, it was a big challenge. And so I needed somebody like Duff to kind of give me that push, and get me started with a career kind of more as a Columbus artist. So
Well, tell us about that. It's just so filled with imagination.
well, actually, this was kind of a really dark period in my life. So it's really, the pieces might look pretty whimsical, but they're actually pretty intense. The piece on the left was just kind of about how I was juggling all of these things at the time, but they were all very explosive, and very, very difficult to juggle. And the piece on the right was kind of my feeling about how the beautiful things in my life, I was actively cutting those down. So 2014 was definitely the next couple years. 2000 and the slideshow kind of goes in chronological order, so it's kind of fun to see kind of where I was to where I am now. But I can definitely say that 2014 was a big year for me as far as life changes. So that comes out in my work, because that is how I deal with my thought and emotion. Is often I'm not one to talk about the things going on in my life, but I will art about it. So
That's a good way to say it. Art.
yeah. Okay, so this is a piece called Three's Company. This was a piece that is also 2014, and it was in my first show at Lindsay Gallery. And this piece is actually an illustration of the three vices that I had at the time. So they're sitting together because they tend to be together often. And so these were the three guys that hung out with me a lot during that period in my life. So those are my three vices at the time. So yeah. So that was my company at the time in my life was these three guys. So
Oh, that's great. Great. They seem to be talking with one another, huh?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was, it was definitely a challenging part of my life. So, the three vices are coffee, which is on the left, drinking coffee like crazy, with the, feeling tired all the time, but also having that, having your mind kind of racing, having that third eye kind of open. And the middle is drinking. So when I don't drink anymore, but when I used to, I would talk a lot, and get pretty mouthy when I was drinking. So that is the center guy. And then the guy on the right is smoking, which I also do not do anymore. But at the time of my life, those were my three vices. So those are illustrated here.
Oh, that's great. That is so great. It should go national, huh? And international. Wonderful. Ah,
So this piece is, it was also in my 2014 show, and it was the first piece that I sold. And that was a really big deal. Not only did it sell, but it went to an art collector in Atlanta, that has a lot to do with the folk art museum down there. So it was somebody that I didn't know, and somebody that liked my work enough to buy it, which was a huge deal and still is always a big deal to me. But the piece is titled Something Happy. I said earlier that the 2014 show had a lot of really heavy pieces in it. Really, I was going through a divorce, and so it was just really, it was a lot. There was a lot of emotion going into those pieces, and it was a really sad show. It was a really good show, but it was a really sad show. And my son, Harvey, I was working very hard on the show. So I was doing that a lot. And Harvey came up to me one night and he said, "Mom, can you please just draw something happy?"
oh,
And so I mustered up what I could and I drew this. And I titled it Something Happy, because that's what he asked me to draw. And then I remember picking him up from school, and after Duff had called me and told me that the piece had sold, and it was my first piece, and so I picked Harvey up from school and I said, "Harvey, I sold the piece." And he said, "I knew you would. See, I told you." So it was a really special piece to me. I hope that it's still loved in the home that it's in. But that's the story behind Something Happy.
oh, it's wonderful.
I
And
love the wood grain in this.
uh,
Yeah.
Did you use the, I don't know how to express it, but what is the work behind your beautiful character and the windmills?
So I work on wood panel. So when I was first experimenting with how the color took to the wood panel, I actually discovered that watercolor works the best. And it goes the farthest for me. So I use watercolor to kind of stain the wood. And a lot of times, especially when I'm using these dark colors on a background, then that wood grain will really pop, which is something that I always love seeing in the finished work. It's, again, really hard to tell what's carved and what's photographs are really difficult with my work. But all of the little notches behind him, and then all of my characters and stuff are always outlined with the Dremel tool. So they're all carved into the wood.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. So this is 2015. And this was kind of a piece that was, it expressed my feelings about alcohol and how that affects not only me, but the people in my life, and the people in my life, especially at that time. It's called Pick Your Poison, and it's kind of illustrates individuals at like a bar, and then how a lot of times when people drink, they release their demons, and how that's happening is kind of what this piece is about. So it's pick your poisons, basically, you know, an old saying when you're talking about what you want to drink, but also was very appropriate at the time, because I felt like it was a pretty negative thing that was going on in my life, and it affected a lot of people. So that's what that piece is about.
That's powerful. Mhm.
And it's funny because I don't ever really talk about what my pieces are about. It's not something I really enjoy doing a piece that has something to do with, you know, what's going on in my life or me, or something like that. But then I like to be done with it. And I really enjoy when other people look at a piece and create their own story with it. That's one of my favorite things. So I enjoy talking about my pieces if I'm doing something like this, but it's not something that I typically would talk about in general, because I really think it's important that people connect with the piece in their own way. So a lot of these pieces people probably have seen, but don't know what they're about. So it's kind of fun to share that a little bit.
Yes. Great.
So this is a piece, I believe 2015 as well. And that is really just about being at capacity, just dealing with sadness and depression, and having that be a part of your life that just is all consuming, and you just feel like you think that you're out of tears, but you're you know, and your capacity has reached its limit, but they just kind of keep coming. So that's what that piece is about.
So the vials to the right are all filled with tears, huh?
Yes.
Ah.
And these pieces are this piece is 6 inches by 6 inches, so they're not large pieces. I didn't start working big until a lot later. So this was 2015. But yeah, again, you can kind of see how it's carved. You can kind of see a little bit of the edge there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
all of those notches and around there is you know, carved out of the wood.
Amazing.
What do you use for your outlining on the not carved pieces, like inside?
Yeah. So first I just sketch a piece on wood, and then I ink it in with a pen, and then I stain it with watercolor, and then I go in with colored pencil, and I usually take a black colored pencil and go over my pen lines. And then the last thing I do is the Dremel. So that is the very last thing that I do, but it's primarily watercolor and colored pencil. So same year, and you can kind of get the whole theme of that show. So 2014, 2015, very challenging years for me. And this is also kind of about just really just, you know, sadness and the feelings that you have inside of you being kind of all consuming. So that is this piece as well. So, and this is actually one of, as sad as it is, I really feel like there's a line between when you're, you know, when you're sad or depressed, and when you're creating art, there's an area that you can hit that's so good. That's like, you're just like, in it, and it's awesome. Like anywhere over the line, or then it's no good. But you hit this area where you're really, I don't know, kind of in the zone. And a lot of these pieces came from being in that zone. So yeah, so this is actually one of my favorite pieces.
Beautiful. That boat, is that origami? It looks like origami.
Yeah, so actually the boat in the middle kind of represents how there's still something good. So no matter how much you feel like you're sinking sometimes, there's a little bit of hope that is fragile, but it's there, and it floats on the surface. So that's kind of what that represents.
Mm.
So this piece is 2016, and it's called Hold On. And this piece was really about how my son was getting older, and it was really, really hard to, I don't know, it's really hard, I think anybody as a parent, when your child starts getting older and, doesn't want to snuggle as much and doesn't want to play as much, and, all of that stuff, it can be really challenging. So this was a piece on that. My son's name is Harvey. He's often represented by a rabbit. That's actually what he's named after. So for those of you that are familiar with Jimmy Stewart and that movie, but anyways, so this was a piece about just how he was getting older and how I was really trying to hold on, and kind of the feeling of that. So.
Mm.
And the mountains in the background, that's all just, I really just painted the background black and then used the Dremel to create those mountains and the texture in the background.
Mm.
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 So this one, this is 2017. And I was really trying to start to kind of look a little bit outside of myself. Usually I pull things from within myself. My work is very introspective. And I wanted to start to still keep that, but also try to look outside myself and respond to the things that were going on at the time. So this is when there was that major flooding in Texas. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was pretty catastrophic. And I remember seeing these news stories on how a lot of the cattle were trying to seek safer ground so that they weren't drowned in the floods. And so this was kind of in a response to what was going on at the time in Texas, and the floods that were there, and that were pretty devastating to a lot of people. This was my piece in response to that.
Beautiful.
So this is a piece where you see my two characters, which are Bub and Soul. Bub is on the left with the red hoodie, and Soul is the character on the right. And they start showing up in my work a little bit more now. This is kind of this is a very older version of them. They look the same, but pretty different now. Bub doesn't have the horns like that. He has more antler type horns, and Soul's a little bit thinner in his newer version of him. But these are two characters that go on adventures together. So this piece was titled Up, Up and Away. And it was really, kind of my my desire to start to figure out kind of where I wanted to go in my trajectory, and how I was really starting to look at the fact that I wanted something new, and was looking at, more adventures and getting excited about that.
Mm. Can feel the motion in that. You've
Yeah.
created. I'm just flying right with them. It's amazing. Mm.
So this is 2018, and this is called Tea Time. And this is a piece about, I started drinking tea, which was really nice. I do a lot of loose leaf teas now, and I drink tea a lot. Still drink coffee a lot, but I drink a lot more tea. And, where 2018 was the year that I completely gave up alcohol, which was really beneficial to me. I had seen it have a negative effect on so many areas of my life, not just as an individual, but other people that had problems with alcohol. So giving it up was really important to me. And one of the things that I used to do was I used to have a nightcap every night, and drink whiskey, which was delightful. But I replaced that with tea. So I was really trying to kind of calm my demons and just kind of sit with it, and be okay with having that tea time that replaced those other things.
What kind of tea do you drink at night?
I have a subscription tea thing that I do. So they send me loose leaf teas every month, which is really fun. So I get to try different teas every month. But I really like the sleepy time tea. just the nice blend of, chamomile and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Wonderful.
So this piece was, I believe, the same year. 2018. So 2018 was a big year for me. It was, not only when I kind of gave up all of the things that were kind of negative in my life, I was also really trying to work on making myself a better person, and just a more positive person. And so, kind of having that glass half full, but also coming to the realization that, to be able to work on yourself and make yourself a better person, it's a lot of work. And sometimes it can feel like you're drowning. And you really have to kind of immerse yourself in the idea of making yourself a better person. So, in order to get that glass half full attitude, you really have to kind of submerge your whole self into that idea, so that you can come out a better person. So.
Powerful.
I love the shoelaces in this. They're so cute. I love them.
So this was when people were doing that whole posting a picture of them in 2009 and posting a picture of a current picture in them. So this was done in 2019. And it was, again, when people were doing the whole decade challenge, posting on social media, of, them 10 years apart. And I really didn't have any pictures from, 10 years ago. It was a darker time in my life. And so, there wasn't a whole lot of that. And I wanted to, I loved seeing everybody's pictures. And so I really wanted to do something that I could post for the decade challenge. So I feel like I was such a different person anyways, that it seemed appropriate to just draw myself. So I did. So the figure on the left is me 10 years prior, and the figure on the right was the current me. So that was a decade between. So yeah, it was kind of coming from, you know, from a sad place and having, you know, I don't know, kind of the challenges that were hitting me. The up on the nose and throughout the eyes, it's a little bit greener. And then on the right, you have a little bit more growth and you have a little bit more color. But you also have more challenges that I've been hit with, and more of a, you know, been through battle type of image on the right than you do on the left. So
The color is beautiful. The character on the right. Uh-huh.
So this is a piece from 2020, and this is a piece that is comprised of individual fabric leaves that I sewed onto a frame that I had built. And yeah, this took forever. I had my partner Josh helping me on this one, which was awesome. Otherwise, I don't think I'd ever get it done. So this is actually a character. It's called a Memorak. It is composed of memories of outdoor spaces that people have that kind of float off into the air and then collect in a stream that then creates a character. So that's kind of what a Memorak is. And Memoraks can be different. They can be about different things, but they're all usually a collective idea or a collective, they have memories, they're made up of memories that have been collected about a certain subject. So this one was about outdoor spaces. I asked through social media, I asked people to give me memories, special memories about places that they had, so outdoor spaces that they really liked. And then I wrote those down on pieces of paper and sewed them on the inside of him. So on the inside of him are all these memories that he's made up of, you know, places that people have shared with me that then, you know, make up his insides, which is kind of fun.
Oh, amazing. He's got such personality.
Yeah, he's big. He's currently in my living room. I'm not sure what to do with him. He went to the Mansfield Art Center. He was there for a little bit, but now he's back and he's currently in my living room. He's over 6 feet tall. I can like pretty much stand up inside of him. He's pretty big. So if anybody's interested in a large sculpture, let me know, because I don't know what to do with him. I will probably end up disassembling him, and maybe keeping his frame and maybe planting some like bean vines or something to grow up and make him. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but so this is a piece, not my most recent piece, but almost. This was created in 2021 at the beginning of the year. So this was the piece that I really wanted to do, a piece that kind of took me into the new year. So this is really the first full year that I have been a full-time artist. And so trying to figure that out has been really, really difficult. But the theme that I wanted to kind of go into the year bringing was just ascending further into my creative mind. So making that ascent and going further than I had ever gone into my creative mind. So that is currently where I'm at.
Yeah. Wow. And I see you now. That's you going up the stairs, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. It's called the Ascent. So it's really just about that journey that I'm currently on. So yeah,
It's wonderful. Bravo.
thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing the soul felt expressions in your art. That's a real gift. Mm.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a, it's really, it's really personal. My art's very personal, but it's also, like I said, it's not usually something that I really go into in depth about each piece, because it is so personal. But uh, I do enjoy sharing it. But I really, really find it awesome when I can do a piece and kind of be done with it, and then you know, just have somebody connect with the piece and make it a part of their story, and bring it home with them and make it their piece. That's kind of
Mm.
the ultimate reward, I guess, as an artist, is when you can make that connection. Yeah.
The rabbits look very happy with you coming up
Yeah.
there. Huh?
They show up a lot. Rabbits have been, they're kind of an important image in my life. My grandmother loved rabbits, and Harvey, my son, is named after a rabbit. So rabbits have always been this kind of symbol in my life that has been really positive. So they show up a lot in my work. Sometimes they represent, Harvey or someone else, but not. Sometimes they're just a representation of a symbol that's a part of me. I would say more often than not, that's what they represent. So you see rabbits a lot of times in my work.
How was it at the plein air at the Indianapolis Zoo?
So that was really exciting. It was really challenging, because it was work that I had never done before, more landscape, which was something that I really wanted to become better at, because I didn't go to school for art, and uh, so a lot of times I feel like there's areas where my skills really lack. So those are the areas that I really try and push myself and challenge myself to get better at. So I've been enjoying doing more landscape stuff, because I think if I can be better at creating that type of work, I can then use that to translate it into my own style and do more of, this work that you've seen today, um, and be better at, making my landscapes better, and making, having techniques kind of in my toolbox that I can pull out and use. So yeah, it was really fun. I was there for pretty much all of March, and it was an amazing experience. I was in a cabin up on a ridge in Iowa, and it was awesome. I mean, it was just, everything about it was amazing, and I worked on my art, but also worked on kind of figuring out where I wanted to go as an artist while I was there. Still don't know if I have the answers yet, but I feel like I came a lot closer. So it was good. I built some good habits of, being out in nature and disconnecting from technology and that kind of thing, that I then came home to, brought those good habits home, and I'm trying to be a little bit better in those areas too. So
Mm. Mm. So,
does anybody have any questions about any of the work or any of the processes or anything like that?
I was wondering, when you were working with the developmentally challenged, how do you still do that, or how do you work with them?
I don't. I was an art teacher there for a long time.
Mhm.
It was, I was most recently running a little art program in Marysville, with individuals who worked on the Honda lines and then could take a break and come to art class with me. So I had done this for 13 years, and it's not typically a job that you do that long. It is very challenging, and it's really heavy. So, you know, you have a lot of illness, you have a lot of challenges, and you have a lot of death. And it's something that people don't do for that long. And there's probably a reason for that. There's a lot of wonderful, wonderful things that you get from, you know, for as many negatives as there are, there's that much more positives. And for as extreme as the negatives are, the positives are that extreme as well. So it's really, it was really challenging work, and it was something that was really close to my heart, and it, you know, changed me as a person. For me, it was really important that I had a job and a career that I was serving. So serving people is really important to me. So I was really ready for a change because it was so heavy, and I think I needed that. I had been able to stay kind of with that line of work for so long because I did so many different things within the organization. So I kind of kept changing my role, which allowed me to do it for as long as I did. But I was ready for a change. And, you know, now I find joy in doing things like volunteering with 934 Gallery. And I'm on the mural committee there. So new artists that have never done murals before, that's kind of one of my things that I'm really passionate about helping, because I did my first mural at 934. So that's something that I am pretty passionate about, mentoring and sharing my knowledge there. So I find ways to volunteer now. Yeah, but I was ready for a change. It didn't happen exactly like I thought it would happen. It happened because of COVID, but the art program just wasn't sustainable, and kind of knew that was coming. But yeah, it was a needed change.
Ashley, tell me about the iguana that you
Yeah,
painted.
so hi, Grandpa.
Hi, honey.
Joining us.
So this past weekend, I spent painting at the Indianapolis Zoo, which was super fun. Also something totally out of my comfort zone. I kind of have a theme this year, and really last year and this year, where I really seek out opportunities that are really scary and totally out of my comfort zone, and I make myself sign up for them. And so I just think it really pushes me as an artist, and makes me better. So yeah, so this was one of those things. I was really happy when I got accepted, but then also immediately very terrified. So going to the zoo was really, really fun. Indianapolis is a cool city. I had never really been there before to experience the city. So I really loved Indianapolis. And then spending the day at the zoo was great. I wasn't sure what I was going to do going into that. So I was really looking for a subject that was going to cooperate with me. And this iguana was just sitting on a rock, and he was ready to model. So that is what I ended up doing. And then I actually ended up meeting the zookeeper, she was awesome. And so she took me like behind the scenes afterwards, and I got to like hang out with baby turtles. And so that was really cool. So.
Oh, wonderful. And thank you to the grandparents for being here and asking that question. It was
Yeah.
You also have a question in the chat from Duff Lindsay. He says, are you still thinking about a concept show for later in this year?
Yes. Yes. I didn't realize Duff was on here. I'm not sure how long he's been on, but yeah, so talking about the show in 2014 and kind of that start, and how that's been really important and kind of that push that I've needed. I hope to, we were going to have a show, I think last year, was it the year before? I don't know. Time is just so weird now, because it just seems, I don't know, time's weird. But anyways, we were going to have a show, and then we didn't because of obvious reasons and COVID happening and all of that stuff. So I had talked to Duff about doing more of a show that was work kind of built around a central theme, and really diving into more of creating a show as opposed to just creating work for a show. And so, yeah, I'm excited to do that. And I hope that that's something that can happen. And yeah, I've got a million ideas and actually quite a few things in the works. So I'm pretty excited.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You mentioned to me, you shared with me that you created art as a child. How did that come to you? I mean, that insight. What were you doing?
Honestly, I think if you're, I think if you're somebody that has that in them, it's just not something that you really think about. I remember people, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was never something I had to think about. It was just like, oh, I want to be an artist. Like that's what I want to be. And then I remember realizing that not everybody knew. And that was really weird to me at a young age. Like, when people were like, oh, I don't know what I want to be, or I don't know, I'm just like, isn't it built in? Like, how do you not know? Like, it was crazy to me when I realized that not everybody knew what they were going to do. So yeah, it was just kind of something that I always loved doing. And I always, I had to do. It was more of it wasn't really a choice. It was something that, it's like I'm trying to explain what it would be like. It's like when you get really thirsty and you really need a glass of water. I get that when I need to make something. Sometimes I just really need to make something. And that's the same type of feeling that I get and that I've always had. I have to make something. It's not whether I want to. Sometimes I don't want to, but sometimes I have to. So yeah, it's one of those things that's just always been built in. And then, I always thought I was going to be an author illustrator. Aliki came to my elementary school, and that had a huge impact on me. She was a woman that wrote children's books and illustrated them, and I thought she was the coolest woman ever. And I was just like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. So that has not come to fruition, but I plan on doing that. I actually have quite a few stories written and hope to go that way with my two characters, Bub and Soul. So that's something that I look forward to doing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Share it with our grandchildren.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you. It's been wonderful being with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to share a little bit more. Yeah, it's great. The program's awesome. I always look forward to hearing what everybody has to say and sharing that. And the show's been great. So I'm really happy to be a part of it. And I really appreciate everybody that, has put in the hard work to make these things happen.
Fantastic, huh? 2 weeks from now, we're going to have from the Loft Gallery, but we'll be doing this virtually by virtue of Lindsay, Marvin Daniels, whose works include hand-built pottery, mixed media, photography, and paintings. So 2 weeks from now is April 29th. And I know what you mean by time.
Yeah.
Time gets mysterious, huh? But it is the end of April, the 29th, and Marvin Daniels will be with us, and his work is in the Loft Gallery. So we thank you, Ashley. And are your grandparents still here?
My aunt and my grandpa. Yeah, there they are. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us. Ah, how beautiful.
Wait a minute. Okay.
There we go.
1997. Ashley, do you remember this?
No. Don't.
It was a
I was
book
like, I don't know what she's
illustration.
holding up.
It's a book illustration you did for something I was working on in 1997.
Oh,
She was very young and did some beautiful pieces of art.
Oh, bravo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you
All
for
right.
coming, everyone.
We-
Thanks.